we are working with Chapter 10. Exercises 1 through 10 wants us to identify what kind of hypothesis test we're going to do. So let's take a look at the first one. Powder diet is tested on 49 people and liquid diet is tested on 36. Population standard deviations, let's underline that, are 2 and 3 pounds respectively. Of interest, whether the diet yields a higher mean weight loss. So it looks like we're comparing two means. Let's call it two samples, testing the mean, and we actually know the standard deviation. So that would be a type A test, and for this we're going to use the z-test, and I guess for the sake of our calculator and looking ahead, we're going to do a 2-samp z-test based on this information. Alright, number 2, new chocolate taste bar is tested on consumers. Want to know proportion of children like the new chocolate bar is greater than the proportion of adults. So we're looking at two proportions in this case, and this is children versus adults. And then calculator command, this is going to be a 2-prop z-test. Alright, next one, number 3. English courses taken in 2 years by male and female college students believed to be about the same. Experiment conducted. Data are collected from 9 and 16 females. So again, this looks like two means. And this time the standard deviation is not known. So this would be type B. If we're keeping track of the types, number 2 is type E. Again, this would be a 2-samp. Well, not again, but this is different. This is a 2-samp t-test. Alright, moving on to number 4. It says here, football league, the mean number of touchdowns was 5. Studies done determine if the mean number of touchdowns has decreased. So really what this is looking at one mean and trying to see what happened to that mean compared to 5. So this is a single mean test. And so this would be D. And to be really thorough, we don't know the population standard deviation, so this is going to be a regular t-test. Alright, next one. Studies done in California university system take longer to graduate students than in private universities. So we got 100 students from Cal State and private universities, and then it's known that the population standard deviation is 1.5811 and 1 year respectively. So it looks like we have two means again, and standard deviation is known. So that would be a test A, 2-samp z-test. YWCA, Rape Crisis Center newsletter, 75% of rape victims know their attackers. This study is done to verify this. So here there is only really one population to look at, and they give our statistic as a percentage. So this is going to lead to a single proportion, and that would be F, your choice. So in your calculator, this is a 1-prop z-test. Number 7, U.S. companies have a mean maternity leave of 6 weeks. So this is a single mean test. And no sign of standard deviation being known. Well, single mean test is just D, but we can go further and say that standard deviation is not known, so this is a t-test. Number 8, drugs shown increase of drugs and alcohol among high school students compared to national percent. So they check the local youth and national youth, see if the proportion is higher locally than nationally. So this looks like it's going to be a 2 proportion test. So that's choice E. And in your calculator, you would use the 2 prop Z test. Number 9, SAT studies on 12 individuals. Pre-course and post-course scores are recorded, and they're interested in the mean increase. So this is the case where we are looking at the mean, but they're taking a look at the pre and post, so there's really 2 samples that they're dealing with, but they're connected, they're matched pairs. So matched or paired sample. And the most common paired sample is a pre and post, and so that would be C. And we don't have a standard deviation here, so although this is taking a look at 2 samples, the process for doing this is finding the difference between each of those items and then doing a simple t-test. So although it seems like there's only 1 sample that we're going to deal with, we actually have 2 samples, and we're going to go back to use the techniques in chapter 9, but it's still technically covered in this chapter, chapter 10, because we're dealing with 2 samples. Last one, Journal of Cancer Institute reported that quitting smoking especially benefited for those under 49. So an American Cancer Society study, the risk probability of dying lung cancer is about the same as those who never smoked. So they're looking at a risk of cancer, and cancer is happening as a proportion, like what proportion has cancer. And it looks like they're studying people who smoke versus people who never smoked. And so this looks like it's going to be a 2 proportion test. So this is choice E, and in a calculator you would do a 2 prop Z test. Okay, so this begins our study with doing a hypothesis test on 2 samples, 2 populations, and we're going to need to remember all the information from last chapter where we studied hypothesis tests, and also the chapter before that when we studied confidence intervals, because both of those will come up here. Okay, good luck with your homework.